mix up childhood days with old tradition. No. But certain things children must go through before they turn man and woman. Instead is weapons that in the hands of the little ones. This make me wonder, this make me cry blood. When I remember how we used to play in the moonlight from the place. Children roasting corn and we singing song and we shaking up we waist. All this little celebration got gone. Little children recreation got gone. It's killing is sex, high fashion clothing. This is what little children studying. Little children days are in danger. You can't talk to them now, they want to chop. They no longer play marble and spin top. Little children days are in danger. Some of them don't walk with the stingray bone. They don't play marble, hopscotch and pong stone. Little children days are in danger. No television messing up the mind. Love is falling and hate continue to climb. Little children days are in danger. All the pain is a mother and a father.
It's no more Mary, white and cherry. How does it start to grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a
A pleasant good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen.
My own country band.
And how are we doing this afternoon?
But I will never deny the fact that cost of living is high.
It is another wonderful day in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. How are you doing wherever you are? I want to say a pleasant good evening to you.
Development must come from all. So
3 minutes past the hour of 6 in the evening.
tell many stories in the yard.
It is 30 degrees Celsius. It's mostly sunny on the outside. Or was mostly sunny on the outside today.
Grandma got gone. It dumpling and taste so strong.
The 20th day of September, ladies and gentlemen.
Sex, high fashion clothing. This is what little children studying. Little children days are in danger. They dressing with big pants that falling down. They don't play banjo, shak shak and big jump. Little children days are in.
I hope everybody would have had themselves a wonderful day, though.
Say good morning, need a goodbye. They looking to drink, smoke and catch a high. Little children days, oh God. But we cannot blame the children alone. Just remember charity begins at home. Little children days are in danger. All the pain is a mother and a father.
Remember when Jack and Jill went up a hill and Jack filled of water, then Jack fell down.
I like when I start the evening to make you dance and listen to a nice little music, no man. Yes, Miss Colimo. Them kind of music must bring you back.
We'll never disrespect the world of technology. No. But some don't seem to appreciate when they get things too easy. The security from all the public facility is community responsibility. When I know how people...
Kevin Mitchell, I understand. I do understand, though.
Now today children, they have public phone and they still mashing up all. Children now they go to garden.
Somebody said to me, Royalty James, I realize you're always smiling. I look at other programs and they always look so upset. I don't know why. I can't tell why. God have granted me the opportunity to have another living and another life. A day to leave, I must correct myself. And so I'm grateful for that. That alone is a reason to smile, right?
No television messing up the mind. Love is falling and hate continue to climb. Little children days are in danger. All the pain is a mother and a father.
My dear friend listening all the way from Canada, thank you so very much for the encouragement. Special class at the YouTube page. Somebody saying that they're not hearing me. Are you hearing me now?
No offense to maturity.
They say they're not hearing me on my YouTube page.
No. But parents must try to bend the tree before it gone past its stage. Love to the max and teach them the facts, all that they should know.
So share the live right now.
Today and tomorrow. And no children.
In the meantime, let me take on some music now, man.
People they sit.
This is the voice of Squeezy.
Treating old people like all the respect for the elders that come. Children now don't have.
Share the live right now. Tag somebody. Let them know Royalty James is on. The class is in session.
They dressing with big pants that falling down. They don't play banjo, shack, shack, and they jump. Little children days are in danger. They don't say good morning, neither goodbye. They look into drink, smoke, and catch.
This kind of song have a kind of dance, eh?
Oh God.
You feel like a back.
But we cannot blame the children alone. No, just remember charity begins. Little children days are in danger. All the days of mother and father.
If you would have had a hard day at work, you're listening to this music right now, whatever device, make a like a dance, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the voice of our very renowned and very well-known Calypsonian here in Grenada for the years past. This was the voice, of Squeezy. All right. How is everybody doing this afternoon? I pray that everybody would have had himself a wonderful evening thus far. And I pray that God get you through the entire rest of the day. And so I want to start today, ladies and gentlemen, by recognizing our very own parliamentary representative, Miss Kate Skitter Lewis. If you go on her Facebook page, and she's giving recognition to NAWASA. She's speaking as it relates to a project that started since in 2016. And if you go on her Facebook page, she's saying the G Crew project describes a visionary and transformative, a project which started in 2016 that we saw the official launch of the water installation project costing over $125 million. Thanks to the team at NAWASA, led by the outgoing general manager, for ensuring this project is a reality. I am happy that St. Andrews Northeast stands to benefit. Pipes would be laid from Maribor to Tivoli, ensuring reliable supplies of water in various different communities. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give our dear parliamentary representative, Ms. Kate Skitter Lewis, there a nice lusty round of applause, as they would say. That was an excellent initiative, and she mentioned that it was taken back then, and so she's giving recognition to the person or persons responsible for making it a reality today. All right. She's grateful that her constituency, more or less, would benefit from same. All right. As of yesterday, as I said, I want to start the day by ensuring that I give a quote. Somebody may listen and somebody may take it into consideration and it may assist them. And so today's quote says, and listen to it, you cannot go on indefinitely just being an ordinary decent egg. All right. We must hatch or we would go bad. All right. Simple reference, metaphorically speaking, though you hear the words egg, but they're saying to you, don't stay in that, that cluster, that space for as long as sooner or later you may rot. All right. Blossom, move to different things. People, let me say to you, it's only in the Caribbean I notice that when we hit 40 and 50 and 60, we have the concept in our minds as if we're getting old. A man or a woman is as old as they feel. And so we have to shake that practice from ourselves in believing that whenever we reach a particular age, it is over. People, it is over when the Almighty takes you home and your day on earth is done. But as long as you breathe the breath of life, there is some impact that you can make. All right? You can make some impact some way or the other. Break out of this habit about are old and are too old to do this and are too old to do that. Let me say to you, the story has been told. The very well-known individual we knew that owned KFC, the founder of KFC. If you go through his life story, you really realize that after retirement, he got into the business of Kentucky Fried Chicken. And that is a stage when most of us get and we say, oh, we old and we retire and we can't do nothing again. People, unless the Almighty don't call you home, your work on earth is not done. All right? If it means taking into yourself and going to schools and share experience as it relates to your past life and so on and so forth, it goes a long way. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, somebody would have asked me today to discuss, try to discuss or speak as it relates to a sexual contented video that are going around. Now, I believe I am tired. I believe I'm tired. I can't say I'm not. I'm tired of giving advice and so on and so forth as it relates to this. But however, I think the organization, the organ of the police force, need to start tracking the people that are doing the sharing. Right? Yeah, we know the perpetrators as it relates to the persons that are involved. But I think it's high time that we start sharing, because if we don't do that, these are the persons sometimes that instigates the problem or compounds the problem some more. And we see it on the Facebook stories. Sometimes it pops up at you. You're on a group chat and the group chat, don't really have nothing to do with that, and persons just, send those things out. And so I believe, we know we want to catch the perpetrators, but it's high time that the organization, the organ of the police force, start dealing with persons. Persons start making a report on those persons. You understand me? Start making a report on those persons. Go on their Facebook stories. When you see it, let persons know. All right? So somebody is giving the being the elephant in the room and saying he's also alleged that he stole the recipe from a black woman. But I'm happy that you brought that up, Romel Batiste, because sometimes we hear as it relates to the story, the idea, the concept, and it's all nice and good. But sometimes we need to take the backdrop, and it takes me to the minimum wage conversation. As I said, sometimes I am happy that my students, it's there and they're listening. And so it takes me to that, ladies and gentlemen. And I am not the person, and I always say that. Yesterday he was out, and you wouldn't find on my program me jumping on it immediately. So I took my time, I went through the documentation, I saw what it is, I read what I could have read, and so on and so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, to everything, there are pros and cons. To everything, there are advantages and disadvantages. But however, when listening to documentations presented and researching, there are important things that must jump at you. That must be outlined. And I would read now as it relates to how far my research took me into today. Because I spent about 15, 20 minutes, going through different things. And, as I said to you, when I come into you, I want to give you facts, and sometimes I make research based on concepts. Now, the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, many persons misdeem it to be, you're always against. But sometimes people, you have to look at both sides of it. The Bible speaks as it relates to good and evil, right and left. You understand me? Black or white. So in everything, ladies and gentlemen, there is a ton side to it. However, there is nothing wrong in commending a great idea, great initiative. And so I want to commend this present government administration for such nice initiative. Nice. It sounds good. All right? But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, those things have backdrops. And that's the reality of it. You can't run from that. And so, as I said, I went into the whole conversation as it relates to minimum wage today and did my research as far as I could go. And so it speaks to increasing minimum wage has pros and cons for the economy, workers, and the businesses. Some pros, and listen to it: reducing poverty and inequality, increasing consumer spending and demand, reducing government assistance and increasing tax revenue, improving workers' productivity and morals. Now listen to where I'm going with this. Some cons are, and listen to the list, You understand? I just ended the pros. Huh? Listen to the cons that goes with it. And see whether or not what I'm saying, it makes sense or if it doesn't. Some cons are increase of cost of living and inflation, reducing opportunity and jobs for inexperienced or low-skilled workers. You understand that? Perpetuating a damaged system of wages and increasing employees' turnover. The effects of raising minimum wage may vary depend on what? The amount, the timing, and location of the change. My question to this administration as it relates to the issue of timing, and ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself this question yourself. The world is presently faced with an increase in cost of living. You understand me? It is now being faced with a probable recession. I'm talking the world, because everywhere you go, you hear persons speaking about, how it is that prices and cost of living throughout the length and breadth of this world is becoming an issue. And so, ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself this question. With the unemployment rate in Grenada, with the increase in so many basic things in Grenada and the cost of living in Grenada, do you believe it is the perfect timing that wages be increased? That is the question. We're not saying that the initiative is bad. The question posed is whether or not the timing for minimum wage to be instituted within Grenada, is it a proper timing? And so my investigation went further. And so we would break down certain things, right? And you would understand from whence I speak. Among the disadvantages of increasing the minimum wages is the probable consequences of businesses increasing prices. Now, take into consideration at the stage that we are at in Grenada, and with the high cost of living that we are already mentioning, and you raise minimum wages, and so businesses decide that now that you are raising minimum wages, we are now going to raise prices. Think again, is it the correct timing? Because you need to take into consideration that the world economy is speaking as it relates to cost of living and its increase. All right? It goes on to say, opponents argue that raising the minimum wage would likely result in wages and salary increase across the board, thereby substantially increasing operating expenses for companies that would then increase the prices of products and services to cover the increase of labor costs. And remember, I mentioned that yesterday. Now, if an employee has to pay you more, and in order to meet that debt of payment, what else would he do than increase the product in which he is producing or his workers are producing? So you're making bread, and bread is $2.50. But now I have to pay you the same $2.50. We have to pay the same $2.50 for the bread, but I have to pay you more to produce the bread. So what would happen there and then? Would it not be a situation where the bread price will increase? Is it the proper timing? And I want us to get that. You understand me? It goes on to say, increased prices mean a general increase in the cost of living that could essentially negate any advantage gained by workers having more dollars in their pocket. So even if you're earning more, remember, you're now again spending more. So your wage at this time costs you to buy a bread for $2.50. But now that a bread, that your minimum wage goes up, a bread is now $3. So even if your salary increases, remember, your spending for the item increases in the same way. So it does not in any way cushion the effect in no way of your spending. We go on, ladies and gentlemen. Another projected problem result from increased minimum wages is that of potential job losses. You hear that? Job losses. Many economists and business executives who point out that labor is a major cost of doing business argue that businesses will be forced to cut jobs to maintain profitability. Because at the end of the day, if I want to continue to make what I'm making, it is nothing wrong in reducing workers and still get the product made. Yes, I employed 5 and 6 persons, which may take a faster timing. But what is saying that I cannot use 3? You understand me? Or 2. All right? It goes on to say the same, and listen to me, it is a recent research that I'm doing. The same 2022 study mentioned above, the Congressional Budget Office also analyzed how higher wages may result in elimination of roles. And so they said to you, by 2027, the CBO estimated that up to 1.6 million jobs would be lost. By 2023, that would increase to 1.9 million job losses. And I'm taking the excerpt as it relates to a research done in the United States when the minimum wages was increased. And this is the bigger country speaking. It says one potential negative impact that is less readily apparent is the possibility that the higher minimum wage would result in increased labor market competition for minimum wage jobs. So, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier on, when things are presented and it is headlined, we like it. It's like, oh my God, that sounds good. Government is, you understand me? But we must take into consideration things of those nature. Right? The net outcome of an increased minimum wage might be larger number of overqualified workers taking minimum wages position that would ordinarily go to young or otherwise inexperienced workers. This could impede younger, less experienced entrants to the job market from obtaining work and gaining experience to move their career forward. If you don't understand what this means, ladies and gentlemen, persons now are going to start remaining there in the positions. They don't want to give it up now. Because at the end of the day, an individual worked for 10, 15 years on the minimum wage. And so now that even if they have not reached retirement age, taking into consideration again, timing. Remember, the age for retirement in Grenada is now 65. It's no longer 60. So now, the opportunity to be given to young people to enter into those job market now becomes more difficult. Because at the end of the day, somebody worked 20 years under minimum wage. They're what? 58, 59. And now that the opportunity comes and they're getting a higher increase, you feel they want to go? They don't want to go. So the opportunity, as it said, for the entrant to the job market becomes difficult now. Because the older heads may say, listen to me, this people inexperienced. I'm now getting a better salary. I stay in 4 more years. I stay in 3 more years. So, ladies and gentlemen, As I said earlier, the question posed, and ask yourself this question: whether or not the timing is correct. And so I am always of the opinion that when you do things, it is okay to get the other side. Understand the other side. Understand the effects. Yes, we know that there are advantages, because an individual with an increased salary is now seeing his or her spending power. Go through the list. See whether or not that the persons who will now be given those jobs, or the increase, are persons that are not average family members and average individuals. So it is given in the left and taken in the right, and more faster than you would believe. Because at the end of the day, as I mentioned, now take into consideration public service vehicles, bus drivers. Take that into consideration, and let's just think about this. Now, individuals are now getting an increase in salary. The bus man is still going to the gas pump, and while the increase in gas prices go up, he continues to pay for the increase. But you, to the person whom he is serving, you still continue to pay the same amount with an increase in salary. How fair would that be to him? What would you think then that he would do? And as I spoke about somebody in a bakery, man in charge of a bakery, he's making bread. Bread is $2.50. He now has to pay an individual $700-800 when you were paying them $5. No, we're not in agreement that, hey, we like that. You understand me? But at the same time, as I said, logical thinking gives you a different concept of what you're looking at. You ought to weigh pros and cons. You can't just jump up and say, oh, minimum wage, so we increase minimum wage. What are the effects? What can happen? Is it the right timing to do a minimum wage? What is our unemployment rate? When it is already bad, take it to mean that unemployment is already bad in the States. No, minimum wage is up. What makes you believe that an employee would now want to employ persons to spend more money? So these are the things that ought to be taken into consideration. Yes, minimum wage sounds nice. Really, really good idea. You're somewhere and an individual want to get onto the other side, and he said to me, watch me, stick that here, tie that so, throw the string so, and the idea sound good. But somebody come and they say to you, if you prong it in that piece of mud, it would slide because the ground is not solid. It's sandy, it's gravels. But the idea, you hear how nice it sounds, because everybody now want to be rescued. They want that. But what are the effects? All right. Romel is saying CEOs have been left for too long reaping all the benefits, and now they've got to do some power. They'd have to got so much power, even having a hold on politicians, that government can tell them anything. You see, and this might be the next thing. Remember, this minimum wage conversation, and as I said yesterday briefly, this is an offer. This is me saying to an individual, I believe you should do that. No, if I have 10 workers, I'm telling you, yeah, it's going to be done. But I'm letting go 4. I'm letting go 6. What does that do to you as a government? How does it boost? How does it boost your economy? So yes, you're giving more, but take it to mean that there is an increase in prices, because that is what is going to happen. If I have to pay you more, you have to pay more for my goods. So before I give a man a $60 to come and work my land, right, I have to give him now $120. So when I come and I had my lettuce for $1 a head, what is causing me now to not increase my lettuce to $2.50? $3. And this is the logical thinking. And you see, at the end of the day, I believe government. I believe government needs to understand that when things like that are presented to persons, it is okay for government to come and say, listen to me, this is what may happen. This is what may happen. So your employer, as aforementioned, releases you. And thanks for the correction to the persons on my YouTube page. Right? So these are things to take into consideration. Government, it takes nothing from an administration to come and say, this is what might happen. This is what the probable cause might be. This is the correction that this is what we might be faced with. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I remember yesterday we discovered nicely that, we could start taking calls, so we could show off on that. So, based on, before I jump into the next topic, we could take maybe 2-3, persons calling in and giving your insights on this, right? We have no problem. As I said, you want to not be disrespectful to anybody. Try not to defamate anybody's character. Try not to be insultive, threatening, or obscene. And we don't want to be too lengthy. It is just maybe a minute, 2 minutes. You can give your contributions and, we can go right along. So if you wish right now to call in, right, my number is going across the screen. However, you can only get me via WhatsApp call, right? So if you call me on my WhatsApp right now, you will be able, once you call that number, you go on, you add the number, and you're on. It doesn't take you really long, ladies and gentlemen. So if you really wish to make that contact now, we give you the next 2 minutes or so in order to make such contact. All right. So in the meantime, we will taking a little music. So if you want to call in, you can do so right now.
Come to mix up childhood days with old tradition. No. But certain things children must go through before they turn man and woman. Instead is weapons that in the hand.
Somebody saying the print is so small.
This make me.
All right, so the number is 536-5843. You can call me on 536-5843. So let's give it about the next 2 minutes or so. If you wish to, you can call in and, give your input. There is nothing wrong in giving your input. As I said, don't be too lengthy and don't be obscene or disrespectful in any kind of way.
To them know they want to chop, they no longer play marble and spin top. Little children days are in danger. Some of them don't walk with the stingray, but they don't play moral hopscotch.
Remember, this is a historic moment for the first person who called, right?
No television messing up the mind, love is falling.
Whoever calls right now is a historic moment for them right now.
Go abroad and talk my own country back. No.
So I think that what I would have explained, and so many persons are in agreement of what I would have said.
That cost of free.
And so I don't think there is a reason to call, right?
But mental bondage is the first thing we have to approach. Development must come from all. So when I remember how we used to like grandma. Get gone. Eat dumpling and taste so strong. Get gone. It's killing his sex, high fashion clothing. This is what little children study in. Little children days are in danger.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I guess persons would have understand the conversation thus far, and so I don't think there is no reason for anybody to call in or give their insights or input, I guess. And I'm privileged to say that, persons might have understood the assignment, and so what I would have explained, it went across smoothly, right? And as I said, and as Keisha outlined, I really don't want to, go too elaborative on the conversation. You understand me? Somebody's saying, as I say, you explain this stuff so smooth that a 3-year-old can understand. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right? You need to weigh and balance. And I took the information that I gave away, right? It is not in Grenada. It is not in Grenada. And you see, one of the things that that jumped to me when reading is timing. No, there's nothing wrong in increasing minimum wages. But as I say, your timing needs to be accurate, right? You need to be able to, say whether or not is this going to work in a time like this, right? You need to weigh and balance those things in order to, make it what it is. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to touch on the housing issue in Grenada, right, as it relates to what was released in recent days by the minister and the persons responsible within the housing ministry. Now, let me say this, ladies and gentlemen, and you see, we must be human before we're anything else. We must be human before we're anything else. Now, individuals, if delinquent in payments, as it relates to the housing and the low-income houses. To me, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that a press conference was necessary. Take it to mean, and let me tell you why I'm referencing this. Take it to mean the Grenada Development Bank comes out and says, listen to me, public servants are outstanding payments in mortgages. And so police officers are 50%, teachers are 25%, and go on and on and on. Now, listen to me. At the end of the day, as I say, human thinking, logical concept needs to take the front burner in doing things. We don't need to know these people, we don't need to know these people, because you see, what you're putting yourself in a position now to do is to ensure that you are transparent as it relates to every individual who will now owe government. Because I am intended to, in going forward, research as to the many things and many people that might be responsible to pay government. Like places like Hotspot and the taxations level. So when you take ventures like this, ladies and gentlemen, you're opening a can of worms for a lot of things. And so if the average individual information can be made public in owing government, let's go deeper. Because if a press conference could be made to say that there are delinquent individuals for paying for the housing projects, I am saying to you now, make another press conference as it relates to other persons who owe government, be it of the past and of present, and let's tackle on them. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, human concept, human thinking must take prevalence. This information is none and void to us as to how much persons are owing Subies and how much persons. Yo, come on. Come on. That information alone, ladies and gentlemen, could cause community dispute. I'm saying this to you because I understand how some people think. Because now persons in Subies looking at each other in all kind of cross-eye. Hey, long she live in there. Neighbors that might be in confrontation. Watch her. She they live in there long, and she owe government. Those are the conflicts you're instigating by doing that. I don't understand why logical thinking can take precedence in things that we do before doing them. What is causing that we don't have a murder in Subies because of a conflict deriving from this conversation? What is causing that not to happen? Know that individuals know the level and percentage of individuals that are in the Subies area housing scheme that is owing government. What is causing that not to happen when the information was disseminated to them? No, at the end of the day, they not know the individuals pointing out. But they know that a vast majority could be responsible for payment. And so you could point out anybody and you could just fall on the right person. Let us be logical in what we do. Does that deserve a press conference? Does who owe government deserve press conferences? Well, if so, ladies and gentlemen, I am holding this administration responsible for going more in depth with individual and tax payments and other things responsible to pay to government. The alleged individual, remember the allegation that went to the individual who you all made in charge of the board of MNIB? You all remember that? He was made the executive person in charge of MNIB with the allegations surrounding amount of money owing to government. But he was made in charge of a whole place. I didn't see a press conference on him. The consideration was not taken as it relates to the merit of the individual. We must be humane first in what we do and how we want to do it. We're living in an age where, ladies and gentlemen, people are thin-skinned, as we don't say in local terminology. Now, even if an individual wants to go to government, they might be reluctant. They may be reluctant, and you're asking them now, after you expose them, you're asking them to come in. There is documentations, there is visitations, letters that can be given. But apparently, based on what I'm understanding, and I'm subjected to correction, I'm thinking that a letter has been given already. And so you're asking them to come in. And if they don't come in, your lawyer is going to write them. Or you are asking them to come in, or else a lawyer is going to write them. We cannot run away from the fact, ladies and gentlemen, that these persons have to pay the monies. This cannot be passed over the heads. But I say, human logical thinking must take precedence in the manner in which you deal with human beings. If a day, 2 days go by and you're owing your rent, you don't want your landlord to stand up in the yard and say, "Hey, John, you give me $300, $400 for me rent now." You may want to do it in a more professional manner. And a press conference to me for persons owing government is not professional. Legal threats is not professional. I am not saying that there are not means and ways to obtain the cash. I'm not saying that they don't have to pay. But I believe that this is government, ladies and gentlemen. These are persons who might have elected your administration. These are persons who might have voted for you, supports you. Now, if an individual is really not in a position to pay and is facing eviction, and so they would have casted their vote for you, what do you think happens to you next election? You have to protect your space in politics. You have to protect your space on executive boards. Protect yourself when you're in leadership position. Sometimes it's not always the concept of okay, I want a vote, but the humane thing, like how would that person feel? I'm seeing a post where they put on somebody's place that you're using government property and you're asked to leave. Let me tell you something. While being a police officer, and an individual, private individual, came to me personally, myself and another officer. Persons was living on his property, family-owned property, and persons was squatting in the frequency area. He didn't go to a lawyer, came to police officers as myself, and he brought us up there, and he had us speak to the individuals, and he said to them, conversation-wise, and he gave them a time. He gave them a time to say, well, why, let us, see how fast you could move and so on. And ever so often we went and checked on the individuals, we called them and so on. I'm not saying that these persons are not responsible for paying government. I would never say that. Government money is to be collected. But as I said, there are means and ways of doing things. I am scratching out a press conference. I am scratching that out and giving percentages as to how much housing scheme and where and how much housing scheme. I am scratching that out. Government have persons that are in executive positions, and so they roll and function. As I said to you, I don't expect the manager of Grenada Cooperative Bank or any financial institution to call on a radio program and say, listen to me, 51% police or mortgage. No. Because there are structures in place for that. Letter 1, letter 2, letter 3, legal action. Those are things that government have the opportunity to do. And but you're asking them, or you go public and you say how much of them that owe, and then you're asking them to come in. Come on. Is that logical thinking? As I said, I have no problem in persons having to pay. Government money needs to be paid. It is low income houses. I think that the rates for the houses to be paid back, I think it is reasonable. So for some persons, right? And so I am not saying that these persons ought not to pay government. But the procedure and process to collecting those monies, I don't believe a press conference is one that is necessary. Neither threats of legal actions or legal counsel. No. That is not the way you deal with things. You're government. You're not a private entity. You're there to serve the people of every walks of life. Even if it was gained through political affiliation. At the end of the day, this is a structure. Life is about food, clothing, and shelter. Life's concept, basic concept, is food, clothing, and shelter. Eat, clothes on your back, roof over your head. Basics of life. And so the probability exists that this person is now facing or going to be left without a shelter. These persons might be unemployed. And so I'm saying all that was said on the press conference, all that was said, if it means government taking 5-6 officials going up there on an evening time or past 2 days before and say, listen to me, we are going to have a meeting in the housing scheme. Those areas are right there. Those areas are right there. When there are other consultations, town hall meeting, you all are getting persons to go out and disseminate the information that there would be a town hall meeting. Go inside a Sobeys. Ask that the community give the information be spread that, hey, we are going to have a meeting this evening. A meeting will be held. I'm not saying it has not been done. Mind you, I'm not saying that it has not been done. But I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, that at the end of the day, I am omitting a press conference. There is no reason for a press conference. And the press conference and the threats behind the press conference, that you're going to seek legal action, and if you write letter 1 and letter 2, those are null and void. Those information need not to be given. Even if you want to hold a press conference, the percentage of people owing is not necessary to the general public's information. The amount owing to government, it is not necessary. Because you're now basically opening, and as I said in my statement, it means that now I am hoping that when information that persons are owing government becomes public, that press conferences are held and saying to those persons, pay government. Because as far as we know, this administration intends to stay there for 20 years. And God permits I'm here for 20 years. I would not forget that press conference that was held for persons in those areas that are considered to be persons that are poor and of an average class, low income. It speaks to itself. And so they may have problems. Yes, they should have gone to government. Yes, government. We know all that should have happened. But at the end of the day, as a boss, a manager at a place, your subordinate might, you talk to them on the floor and they want to get on with you. They want to curse you. I don't expect you as the manager to remain on the floor and curse with your subordinate. No. Excuse me. Okay, Miss James, Miss Charles, can you come into my office in the next 5 minutes, please? You don't need to curse. So you need not to do a press conference. You go up there, you have the authority. The authority is with you. You want to go with the officer in charge of Grenville Police Station or the commissioner of police, or you want to go with a lawyer up there to sit in, the parliamentary representatives, you go ahead and you have a meeting with those persons. And you let them know of the actions intended. And so you would maybe call them in. And so on and meet them, ask them what the problems are. But you're speaking lawyer, eviction. Come on. Let us first be human. And let's not forget that, ladies and gentlemen. Let us first be human. All right? Now, my next conversation for this evening, it really won't be lengthy. And I realize that I have about 7 minutes left. Now, I'm going back to the Jaunties case and pathologist autopsy number 1. Now, I pray that this individual is not or would decease from his practice for pathologists if he is employed with government and he takes up his private entity to do his job. Because, I mean, if pathologist number 1 still practices in the state of Grenada, I ask kindly of the government to go and research on the individual. Go and nice research. Find out more about him. Because remember when you all got in, you all immediately got rid of the person responsible for psychology and so on in Grenada. Get rid of that person, please. It's a clarion call. Pathologist number 1 who gave his autopsy result on the John T. Robinson case when said that cause of death could probably be drowning. And maybe it was just a rumor. But if it is not a rumor, ask him to cease and desist his practice in the field with immediate effect. That is all I would say on this situation. This is all I would say on this situation, because I find we just jump over that whole situation, because that day is funny, really funny, you know. I don't understand. I mean, and the two cause of death is so far from each other. I don't have medical, I'm not so good in the medical field, but I don't think that the probability of drowning and that of strangulation coincides much. I mean, I know you would have a lot to do with the respiratory system, but there must be some distinct difference when somebody is drowned or has drowned, than opposed to strangulation. And so I don't understand what autopsy we got from pathologist number 1. You understand me? But however, I don't care how long he practices. This is not my business. But you can't be so far from a result. So far from a result. This is like a doctor telling me, oh, the person was stabbed, and then doctor number 2 come and tell me the person was shot. There must be a distinct, something that could say, listen to me, that is a bullet wound, that is a blunt object that was used to trust through the chest of an individual. You know, it goes on. You understand me? But pathologist number one, I wanted to mention him, right? People, I am venturing to go into the conversation of the launching of independence on October 19th. But I don't think 3 minutes would give me relevant time. So I think I'll leave that for tomorrow evening, right? Because I think we continue to play on important dates in Grenada. And I would go back to even the party I support. I remember, I don't know how many of you all remember, I don't think it was an election date. Something was held on March 13th, you know. Was it the election? Was it 2018 election? That was held on March 18th. I'm subjecting to correction. I think there are some distinct dates in Grenada that ought not to be played with. Distinct dates that ought not to be tested at all. I'm speaking February 7th. I'm speaking March 13th. I'm speaking October 19th. I'm speaking October 25th. I think as a country, we ought to know how important those those dates are to us. And somebody saying, yes, 20 election, March 13th. And I was in disagreement of that. And I'm speaking as it relates to 2018 when the election. I didn't have a forum like this, so maybe you didn't hear me speak about it. But I think there are some distinct dates in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique that ought to be respected as it relates to its intensity within the state, especially coinciding with the coup that was held in 1979 and the revolution that was held in 83. There are still persons among us that have this conversation and topic very close to their hearts. Persons who lost individuals. Persons who might, sometime when thinking of their brother, their sister, their cousin, their auntie, their nenen, the political leader, the parliamentary representative, still get that daunt feeling. And I say I'm dating it back to stating it publicly that since those dates are distinct in Grenada, I don't think anything else takes precedence over those dates. Nothing whatsoever. If God is in his almighty will want to have a hurricane or a storm on those days or whatever, God forbid, fine. But I'm saying to you, there are some distinct national historical dates that ought not to be played with. Right? And as I said, I would elaborate on the conversation tomorrow as it relates to the launching. And I say, that does not coincide in no way. October 19th does not coincide with February 7th. And those of us who know our history knows that it's two dates that are more controversial than anything else. Right? Those two dates are more controversial than anything else. Right? So we just need to be careful, very careful as it relates to playing with dates of our states. History to us is minimal. And I always say that. Very minimal but rich. So we ought to save the little history that we have in Grenada, and those dates should be used to focus on the importance of those dates. Our kids should know what those dates are distinct about. Not next year you hear a child saying, you ask a child, why is October 19th? They tell you, that is the day they just launch independence in Grenada. No. Because, I mean, come on. The fact is, there is nothing wrong giving the answer. Because that is what you have oversighted with. You ask a child, what happened March 13th? They tell you a general election. This should not be. The distinct dates must be recognized historically because of its depth to the state and our development. Right? So I just wanted to put that out there. Revolutionary dates in Grenada, the dates of the coup and other things like that should really be dates that we don't trample on. Right? And I don't want all you go and say, oh, you say October 19th they launching things, so I shouldn't do. No. I went back as far as March 13th. We don't play with those dates. As I say, it must be embedded. Our history is minimal but rich. Very rich. And so now that you see, history is a thing that changes through time. And so we knew all the other persons. Maurice Bishop, Eric Matthew Gary, all those persons, we know them. And so they have been embedded in our history in Grenada. And we can't just shy them out. They put in other things that persons may want to reflect on those days. Right? Take it to mean that Maurice Bishop's aunt or uncle or nene or daughter or brother want to take those days to reflect on their dad and whoever. Eric Matthew Gary, and you're saying to them, no, we don't have that again. We start to have the launch of such and such. Different situation on March 13, 2018. We gave them a third 15 seat. I didn't want to shy that out. That, you see, that has stuck in our history. And you see, if we didn't use that date, then we would not have nothing to conflict those dates, right? Because a child doing the examination now may ask you, what was historical in Grenada on March 13th? And they can give that answer. That is not the answer we want. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Keisha Walcott, because that's not the answer we want. We want to know what happened in Grenada on March 13th, and not speaking as it relates to, the election. Child right down. Dr. the Right Honorable Kit Mitchell won the election by winning his third 15 consecutive seats. And that is a correct answer. But historically, we know what we really have been embedded in our history, and that is what we want to keep. And you see, this is a typical example, right? This is a typical example. We want our history to remain our history. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure as per usual in being able to come on here and converse with you guys. I hope the information that I gave to you, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, my informations are more so factual and more so geared to knowledge, not to in no way, ladies and gentlemen, bring any discreditation to whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, as I said when I started, an idea might be great on the surface. People walk, it looks really good. But the practical aspect of it, I always say, it is what, as the old people say, when the shit hits the fan. Sorry for my words, but when it hits the fan, you get to know what it really is. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to say a pleasant good evening to each and every one of you guys. It was a pleasure being here this afternoon. Now, on my program today, and I didn't want to do any testing, you understand me? I didn't want to do anything like that, ladies and gentlemen. So, somebody today, a listener today, would receive a phone call or maybe via WhatsApp or Messenger, and they would be the winner of one ticket, compliments Hush 5.0. I want to come all-inclusive catamaran, $120. All you need to do is be there, get on the boat, and you eat and drink free throughout the length of time that you're on the expedition. All right? So one person will be contacted, right? I didn't want to give any questions. I'll just give it out. So one person will be contacted by myself, right? It would be made public who the person would be, right? So they would be the winner. As you see, it's in my possession. It is actually in my possession. So definitely you are going to be contacted and you will be the winner of that ticket. Be mindful that you must be in Grenada on October 1st, right? You must be in Grenada. You must be in Grenada, Martis, and on October 1st. Remember, you're not going to give this ticket away. The actual person that gets this ticket ought to be on the boat ride. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure being here, and we're going to see you again tomorrow. I may start a little. Well, normally on a Thursday, sorry, I try to start a little later than usual, so that I can give Sister Jenny her time to be able to, give you the information. You understand me? So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to say have yourself a wonderful evening, and we will see you again tomorrow. God's blessings to each and every one of you. Love you from the bottom of my heart. And this is Royalty James signing out for this afternoon. All right?
Mix up childhood days with old tradition. No. But certain things children must go through before they turn man and woman. Instead is weapons that in the hands of the little ones. This make me wonder, this make me cry blood. When I remember how we used to play in the moonlight from the place. Children roasting corn and we singing song and we shaking up we waist. All this little celebration that gone. Little children recreation that gone. It's killing is sex, high fashion clothing. This is what little children studying. Little children days are in danger. You can't talk to them now, they want to chop. They no longer play marble and spin top. Little children days are in danger. Some of them don't walk with the stingray, but they don't play marral, hopscotch and pongstone. Little children days are in danger. No television messing up the mind, love is falling and hate continue. Children days are in danger. All the pain is a mother and a father.
It's no more Mary, white and cherry. How does a garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row.
I will never go abroad and talk my own country back. No. But I will never deny the fact that cost of living is hard. But mental bondage is the first thing we have to approach. Development must come from all sources. When I remember how we used to tell many stories in the yard, and children they used to appreciate whatever their parents had. Days we used to cook by grandma. That gone. The dumpling and taste so strong. That gone. It's killing is sex, high fashion clothing. This is what little children studying. Little children days are in danger. They dressing with big pants that falling down. They don't play banjo, shak and they jump. Little children days are in danger. They don't say good morning, neither goodbye. They look into drink, smoke and catch a high. Little children days, oh God. But we cannot blame the children alone. Just remember charity begins at home. Little children days are in danger. All the pain is a mother and a father.